Hey, Aaron, how's it going?
Good. How you doing, Nate?
Good, good. I guess happy couple days after Thanksgiving. Did you have a good one?
I did. It was nice and easy, low key. We chose to have a restricted party, if you will. We didn't have the extended family, which was okay. I mean, I think a lot of people were in that same sentiment. Had good food, had played some games, had some good beverages as well. So that's always a good thing. But yeah, smoked a turkey. It turned out good. My
Nice.
cooking skill level is increasing by the day on the smoker, so it's getting better. How
That's
about
awesome.
you?
Yeah, it was. I was saying we were limited party size. It was just the four of us. So, which I agree is it's very relaxing. I mean, usually we have everybody over the house, and it ends up being somewhere around 14 to 16 people. So just to be four was was kind of nice. Um, but I didn't smoke. I need to do that. I keep saying that I want to smoke a turkey, and I haven't yet. I just did mine in the traditional the bag, and yeah, everything was good. We made the full thing though, right? Like only four of us, but you would swear we were still having 16.
Yeah, yeah. We still have some of our side dish leftovers.
Yeah, we Lisa's grandma, who's since passed, she made these things called croquettes, and I don't. It was the first time I'd ever heard of them when I was up at their place, and she made them. But it was always after Thanksgiving, and you take the leftovers and you make these little balls of joy. But it's potatoes, mashed potatoes, with like a little bit of turkey balled up in the middle, so it's round, and it's about the size of a baseball, and then you coat the outside in breadcrumbs and you deep fry it and throw a bunch of gravy on
Mm,
top of it, and it's basically like Thanksgiving dinner all over again. But if you just take all the leftovers, and so we did those last night, and it's always kind of a fun little thing because they're like a treat. Because eventually you get sick of the leftovers, after about day 12.
yeah,
So it's kind of a fun way to do it. You break it up. It's not the same thing. It's different, but it's the same food. So you got that comfort food. It
sure.
was good. That's what we did last night.
Neat. Yeah, that's worth it. Sounds good.
Pretty tasty.
Sure.
You didn't have hot dogs, so you're getting corn dogs.
All right, so let's dive in here. Leaders are the ones who run headfirst into the unknown. They rush
We
towards
have
the
10
danger.
minutes.
They put their own interests aside to protect us or to pull us into the future. Leaders would sooner sacrifice what is theirs to save what is ours. And they would never sacrifice what is ours to save what is theirs. This is what it means to be a leader. It means they choose to go first into danger, head first toward the unknown. And when we feel sure they will keep us safe, we will march behind them and work tirelessly to see their visions come to life and proudly call ourselves their followers. So, still on the abstract challenge, managing the abstraction, chapter
Mm-hmm.
15.
Big Rock?
Yep. Actually, I mean, compared to other chapters, a pretty lengthy chapter, um, which was good. There's a lot in here. Um, very good topics, and it really, um, it starts with these two stories, and the first story is about the annihilation of a population back in I can't remember what the time frame was. But anyway, it's talking about uh, ruthless leaders and mass killing of people versus that was story one, and story two was a simple person having health issues, and then a little girl coming and saving them. And they ask the question of which story kind of strikes you more as a person as you read the stories. And oftentimes we associate more with the individual, the single person story, because it's more real. You can wrap your head around it, um, versus a mass extinction back years and years and years ago. So I posed a question. I got thinking about it when I was reading it. Is how is COVID affecting you in this day and age? You see about it on the news. You see about it, and I think this is a good way to think about it. We see the numbers are continually rising. 3,000 per day, whatever. We're surpassing 15 million, whatever. You're seeing all these statistics in the news, and you're probably not really thinking very far beyond it. But when you have a person that is affected, I think your mindset completely changes. You tend to sympathize more. You probably tend to be a little bit more fearful. Was interesting. One of my son's teachers had an uncle that passed away because of COVID, and that was really interesting to talk to her about it, because her biggest thing is that she didn't want him to become a statistic, and fundamentally that's what he's going to become, is a statistic. He's a person. He's not a statistic.
Yeah.
So when you hear stories like that, it really, it hits you deep down that these aren't just numbers that are blowing through the roof. Because I'll be honest, I'm the same way. I see them on the news and I'm like, well, whatever, there's not much we can do about it. The vaccine's right around the corner. Who cares? But then when you hear those stories about it, affecting an individual, it really kind of hits home to you, because that could be you. So, and that's kind of the difference in perspective when we talk about abstraction. It's more or less the perspective of the numbers that we're dealing with here. It's how does these things affect you? Sometimes it's that deep down personal interaction that affects you greater than a mass quantity, large number kind of mindset.
I don't know. It's smaller, it's easier, right? Like, it sounds bad, but it's kind of human nature. It's easier to think about,
Yeah.
Keep it
So,
real. Bring people together.
Yeah. So Simon lays out 5 rules when it comes to managing abstraction, and so go back to the previous 2 chapters. We talked about how abstraction works. We talked about essentially what it is diverging away from the real path, the truth, the group. So what he does is he lists these 5 rules, which are really good to keep in mind when you're formulating your teams, how you're doing business day to day, and really managing that abstraction. And really what we're boiling it down to is keeping the focus and keeping the path, so everybody's working in the same direction and not fighting each other. So the first one is keep it real, bring people together. We as human beings crave togetherness. We crave sitting next to each other, talking to each other. I think some of the best ideas come about when people are sitting in a room together. In this day and age, in this virtual world that we live in, that's extremely difficult. I was extremely disappointed this week to find out that our sales meeting was canceled because of COVID. Now we got to have a virtual meeting. Well, when you have a virtual meeting, you have internet connections cutting in and out, kids in the background, you're distracted. And it's just not the same. You can get as much done, and that's kind of a bad example because we can't really force the hand of COVID. We can't. But when you have the ability to choose between writing an email back and forth with your team or just going into the office and talking to the people, choose to go into the office and talk to the people. Your point will be better received, better ideas will be generated. And that's what he's really trying to get at here is when you have the choice of either talking face to face or phone, email, text, whatever, choose the face to face.
Yeah. I mean, it's important. I mean, outside of a COVID world, you have to build rapport, right? You build, no matter who it is, you have to build rapport with everybody, right? You have to build the relationship, the connection. Yeah, I mean, I'm a firm believer that face-to-face and a handshake is way better than 12 emails to, you know what I mean? Like, oh, heck yeah, 100%.
Yeah, it's the same on sales side. I mean, don't email your quotes to people unless you absolutely have to. If you're bidding something halfway across the world, I get it. But deliver your quotes in person. Shake the hand. Thank them for the opportunity. Present them with the quote. You're going to have a higher success rate, a higher close rate doing that than you are just shooting an email off saying, here's your bid, let me know if you have any questions. That is not personal.
That's a great example of people buy from people, right? Like, and everybody hears it, it's a cliche statement, but they trust. It's easier to hand money over to somebody that you started to build trust with or build a relationship with, just that connection. For me to pay you for something, I know you, we've been together, I have this connection with you, is a lot easier than me sending money to somebody that I've just talked to over the internet, right? Like, who is that person?
Yeah.
Like that, it's huge, 100%.
Yeah. And the last point that I don't want to forget is meet often. And that's more of an inter team. Make sure that you are meeting often. Make sure that people are understanding where you're coming from. You're not just a face that drops in, every 6 months.
Yeah.
So.
You're recognizable.
Yeah. Rule number 2: keep it manageable. Obey Dunbar's number. So this gentleman Dunbar, I don't think they listed his first name. It actually come up as scientific study on the effectiveness of groups, and what he had found was that groups that are in that 100 to 150 person range, as you grew up that scale, you started to have or not be able to really reach everybody and not be personable. People started to become numbers versus actually being people. So as you go through and grow as successful people, try to make sure that you keep your groups small, equal, and balanced, so that everybody knows everybody can talk to everybody, and we're not just numbers in a crowd. It's hard to really, 150 people is a lot of people in an organization, but if you're a precast producer or a producer, and you're thinking about expanding to a different facility or a different location, just make sure that you're not trying to, pile so many people into one area. Really try to split it up as much as you can. And I think another good way of thinking about that too is think about your, sometimes your client base. I mean, it's great to have a shotgun approach and shoot out bullets to everybody, but really when it boils it down to, if you could have, 150 people in your contact book, that's a good number. I mean, if you can remember 150 people, that's really good. Beyond that, it's going to get more difficult. So try to keep your sales channels, I think, directed so that you understand who these people are and they can put a face to you, versus just trying to get it out there to everybody.
Yeah, I think what you're saying is that it's far better to have 150 people that you've been able to meet, shake hands, and build rapport with, than 300 people that don't really know who you are, right? So you, out of that 300 then of just randomness, 150 end up doing business with you anyways, because there's the 150 that you actually got to build some rapport with. So you can, it's building that relationship that gains it, right?
Yeah. That's said better. Thank you for that. I was struggling with that. Rule number 3: meet the people you help. And this kind of goes on both channels. One, if you're in a team and you're working together and you're the leader of that team, make sure you take the time to actually go down and meet the people that are actually doing the work and understand what they're doing. And don't rely on, sending out a spreadsheet that says that sales are up 35%, and give an attaboy or a pat on the back. Go down there and understand what that person is doing to affect that number, affect that change. Likewise, when you sell a product to somebody or you complete a job, go to the person and get some real-time feedback. Don't rely on them, and don't take for granted that they're satisfied. They're 100% satisfied.
Lost
what you're doing instead of relying on.
Aaron, we lost you there for a second. You might have to back up just a second.
Okay, you got me? My back?
Yep.
Okay, so I'll just pick an arbitrary point. Don't get hung up on attaboys and spreadsheets. Likewise, too, if you sell something, or you do a job for somebody, go back to that person and get some real-time feedback from the actual person itself. Do not feel that the job is completed, the job is done, you're probably okay. Don't ever think that. go back and get some actual feedback, even if it is just, I'm satisfied, you did a great job. Get that from that person. That creates that human factor that, again, goes back to rule number one, where we're talking face to face. We're not just relying on spreadsheets, numbers, trends, and fictitious, or not fictitious, but, arbitrary pieces of paper that tell us that we're doing a good job.
Yeah. Like on the sales side, I see this as building that relationship from the sales manager to the sales team is tough to start with. And especially, if a sales manager comes in and like you said, you're not necessarily, managing from afar, right? So, go do this, go do that, go do this. And the first thing that most sales teams think is like, well, you don't know how to do it. You know what I mean? How is it that you want me to go do it if you don't know how to do it because you're not proving that you can? And I'm not saying that you need to go out and do the work for your employees, but going out on the road with them and I love ride-alongs, right? Like where you actually go out and you don't sit there with a pad of paper writing notes all day. He did this or he did that or isn't whatever. Like actually grabbing some papers and going in and having conversations with customers and leading in a couple of them. Here's how I do it. After the sales person does theirs, right? Like I like how you did that. Here's how I do one, and you share back and forth, and then you build again. It's building that rapport, building that trust, and you were just out there showing that no, I've been in your shoes. I understand the work. I don't know. It builds everything solid from the ground up. There's no mistrust or high tower kind of feeling.
Yeah. Yeah.
So rule 4, give them time, not just money. Time and energy are two important resources that we can never have back. We can control that. We can control our energy. We can't control time. But they should be viewed as probably our two most valuable resources that we have available to us. Yet we constantly through life, we value money more than we do time and energy. So we are focused on giving bonuses, which I'm saying, bonuses are a great thing. It's a good way to keep people motivated, but we, essentially they're materialistic things. So, oftentimes when you think about your company and yourself and you're thinking about maybe giving time back to something, an organization, and you got people that are like, I just don't have time for it. That's a wrong way of thinking. Give your time adequately. Spend time in thought. Spend time in action. Give energy where energy is deserved. Don't waste energy where energy is not deserved. And I think giving back is also a very good way of kind of bringing everything home from a company-wide level. That's something that I think a lot of companies could probably spend a little bit more time doing, whether it's a Habitat for Homes type situation or, just ringing bells for Salvation Army, it creates a personable effect, not only on the community, but within your company itself. The people start to think that, hey, I'm working for a company now that wants to give back. It's not just about greed and money, and it's about time and it's about effort. And I think that's a good practice to get into. But I think it's the same kind of mentality you have to have then too for employees, whether it's on the plant floor or sales teams or whatever, is sometimes the thought process is, well, I'm going to pay them overtime. They're going to get a bonus. We need them to work more. They're going to get the bonus. They're going to get the extra money. When you know what, maybe just giving them the day off, right? What I don't know, like it's the day before Thanksgiving. Just give them the day off. Who knows? Maybe some of them want to come in and work and they'll take the bonus. That's great. But don't
Two more corn dogs
think that the money is what
and a hot dog.
Yeah, because for a lot of people, being home with the family is more important than the extra paycheck that day.
Yeah, and that's a good point. I think it's sometimes where you're not that really has the profound effect. So if you are doing the overtime and pushing hours and they're getting more money, but they're missing Saturday soccer game or Saturday baseball game or football game, which they can't have back. They can't have that back.
Yeah.
Or, say you allow them to, but you're sitting there texting them every 5 minutes. So they're sitting there on the sidelines of the football game, doing text messages back and forth. That's not good. That's not, there's always going to be time for completing work and completing projects. Sometimes we have to just pick and choose. It's not always about more money. It's about adequate use of our time.
100%. Rule 5, be patient.
Yeah, that's the most important rule. Be patient. We live in a world right now of instant gratification, likes and followers and hits. This is the world that we live in right now. You can text message 50 people, "Hey, how's it going?" and you'll probably get a response from somebody, and you'll feel good about it. But understand that building trust within your network, it takes a long time. There's a good rule in there, the rule of 7 days and 7 years. And that was a question to ask, is how long does it take for you to trust somebody? Well, it's probably more than 7 days, and it's probably less than 7 years. That's a very true statement. Sometimes you just hit it off with people, but really to build profound trust within your network, within your organization, again, building that really strong circle of safety. It takes time. People come in the door, they go out the door. You get burned, they get burned. That's kind of the circle of life when it comes to hiring and firing. So it does take time, and don't feel like you're ever falling behind the 8 ball, because it does take a long time really to build that culture, that circle of trust. And even when you do build it, it takes a long time to maintain it. It's a very difficult thing. It's not easy, especially in this day and age, to have that. And so just be patient is really the take home here.
Well, and I love this because the statement of trust the process is, and it doesn't matter what it is, right? Whether it's in production or sales or what have you, a process inherently just means time, right? Like there are steps, and you can't shortcut those steps. So again, it goes right down to the 7 days, 7 years thing, right? Like we're so hung up, like you said, on how many likes did I get on this video today? Where the question is, how many likes did I get on the video I did last year? Over this year, how many times have people been able to take something away from the year? Not just today, right? You got to trust the process. Let them finish the steps. This is a big thing in sales, right? You can't walk in and expect to make the sale on your first visit. It's not practical, right? Unless you're selling Girl Scout cookies. No offense to the Girl Scouts, because I buy them, but typically it's going to take more than just that first time walking through the door. And you gotta trust the process, take the time, and follow it, and great things will happen.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's almost anything that provides value in life is a process. And as long as you have that process identified and what you need to do, you need to do it. And I mean, I get it. I'll use the example of the hitting training that I'm doing with kids. It's a process. It takes time. There is a defined process. It's a 30-day program to have results that is measurable and repeated over and over again. But if you try to shortcut it, because you want to, your son wants to hit a home run or a double or whatever, and you try to shortcut it with some tools or fancy gadgets or accelerating the process, it doesn't work. It's trust the process. It takes 30 days to do it. You got to go through every single step, all 30 of the steps, in order to get to where you want to be. And that's the same with anything, whether it's sales, production, or anything. You can't walk into a production plant and want to be the production manager the next day. It takes time. It's a process. So it is. Like I said, anything that is of worth or value takes time. It's not instant gratification. Yeah. That's just a falsehood. Makes you feel good for a little bit, but then that feeling goes away. Yeah. But over time, you complete a long process, you're going to feel pretty damn good for a long time.
100%. with you.
Yes, go away.
So what? Where are we heading next week?
Next week's a short chapter. I think it's like 2 pages,
Huh.
but it talks about imbalance. So it's actually pretty important. So
Probably a good chapter for everybody that's still handling some of the was it tryptophan overdoses that we got this past week.
yeah.
So imbalance, is that what we were talking about, right?
Yeah. It operates in the same type of abstract challenge. It's just kind of when you have that process, things can go out of balance every once in a while, and how do you get them back in balance before they completely fall off the tracks?
Yep. Perfect. Same time. I think everything's still good next week. So same time, same place.
Yep.
Perfect. Aaron, thank you. Good to see you back again, and we'll see you next Monday.
Yep. Sounds good.
Awesome. Have a good one.
You too. Bye.